Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Gray Area on the BMU Network. I am Mr. Bennett, followed by my partner, as always, Grooming and Reviews 101, a.k.a.
Sparta!
a.k.a. The Ghost of Sparta, a.k.a. Peter, a.k.a. Y'all soon, my brother. What's going on?
What's going on, brother? How are you, my man?
Busy. So, again, this is my last move-in day. So, my daughter, she's attending Rutgers. She's a senior now. So we had to move her up today and get her settled in. So for the last time, and to start that process off. So I have another daughter who's in Mexico and another daughter who goes into work tonight. So house is getting emptier. So it's just my wife and the dog pretty much. We kind of occupy the house most of the time here. But pretty busy weekend. Had to do some work earlier this weekend. I might have to do a little work tomorrow on Labor Day, but it is what it is. You got to get the work done and keep grinding.
You're gonna be very lonely lately, I think, because you're so used to having all these people, and now you're gonna just you and your wife. So
now we're ready for it. We've been looking forward to the kind of getting back to us, being sort of husband and wife and not parents. We'll always be here for the kids, but now we looking forward to this. So I'm not feeling the loneliness and all. I just the only thing I just wish is that when they go out, they just don't do stupid things. That's the one thing I tell them every time they leave the house or go anywhere. So it's like, all right, don't do anything stupid, and that's and I'm happy with that. So my daughter, she called us as we were moving my daughter back, my middle one, the one's in Mexico, and so she was telling us how things going down. You get drama here and there, but so far nothing that we had to be concerned about. So it's like, good. Keep your head level and don't go to places you don't need to be going to. Stay within the resort areas and whatnot, and just be watchful and mindful where you have yourself. So so it's an interesting time. But again, just want to welcome everyone to the show. Again, as you see at the bottom of the screen, our Cash Apps. We appreciate any support that you give us personally. But more importantly, we ask that you support the BMU Network. BMU Network offers content 7 days a week in this platform on different shows and topics. I'm sure you'll find something that meets your interest, or several shows that may meet your interest within the workwear. So consider becoming a member of the BMU Network. Consider dropping a Cash App for the BMU Network in these spaces. But at the very least, just click the like button when you come in. And again, we already have some people already in the house already, so we appreciate, again, Anania being here. Thank you, Katelia. Again, thank you for supporting us. The women always support us on this platform, and really appreciate certainly their support and everything that we do here. So definitely Mariana Constantine, again, good evening. Certainly good to have you with us, and certainly hoping that more people will join the conversation later. And this is going to be a big one. Honestly, I was what kind of precipitated this. We were supposed to go with another show topic tonight. And I was up because I teach Sunday school at my church, and I was doing some prep, and the topic of tattoos came up and just has some processing information. It wasn't the subject, but just as I'm preparing, I started thinking about it a little bit, and then I just hit me that obviously it's a global thing. I mean, this is probably as big a gray area as you will get. And I just hit Peter up like at 3 a.m, and I said, "Hey, we need to do a gray area show on tattoos." Now he thought, "Oh, what are we doing tonight?" "Oh, we're doing tattoos." I said it would be a good suggestion for a show, but the momentum was such where it's like, hey, no time like the present. So let's go with it. So I was like, fine, So I was able to put some things together. I'm sure Peter, he has some thoughts himself, as he is obviously a I don't know what they call you guys, a tattoo wearer, a tattooist.
I don't think it's the name for it.
I don't know what is there an inked. You're part of the inked community. I don't know what you call it. I have no tattoos.
It's no real label like somebody has tattoos, but people might ask you, "Hey, what kind of ink you have, or what kind of tats you have?" Kind of like talking back and forth, what kind of tattoos you kind of have. But that's most of it. But it's no title like say like, oh, hey, he's a beardsman. Like obviously, oh, he's a boldy, or he's a glass guy or whatever. It's no real name for my tattoos. It's more like, you have ink, and that's it, and it's call it that, and that's it. People ask you what's the reason of your tattoos, or what's the meaning behind which ones you got your first, what's your first tattoo, your story behind it. And this is a little bit of a sore subject lately to me because I've been profiled twice in 2 weeks about this, and it's starting to piss me off a little bit. And I'm gonna explain to you why. Let me go over the first story, and we're gonna get into it. So I was talking to somebody. Actually, she was Greek, mutual friend and everything, and she never realized I had tattoos. She goes to me, "Yeah, I can't be friends anymore." I'm like, "Why not?
Can't be friends."
No, I can't even speak to you, nothing anymore. And she goes, "Why not?" I went to her, like, I was curious, like, we've been friends for a couple of years now, like, or like, I never realized you had tattoos. My family's never gonna accept that. Excuse me? I'm like, you know, the Bible says you're going to scar, you know, that's scarring your ink, but judging is worse than scarring. So yeah, whatever. I was pretty heated. I'm not gonna deny it. I was pretty heated. Like, you're gonna profile me because of my tattoos. Good job. You're a piece of shit, first of all. Simple as that. I will never buy any property from this real estate person in New York. So that's all I'm gonna say. Second time I got profiled was last week at work, doing my thing. I can't say names too much or location because of HIPAA laws.
Right.
But this, you know, this resident's door comes down to me and asks me, you know, can you, you know, make something for my dad? Yeah, probably what he wants. And he goes, but I can't. You cannot cook them for him. I'm like, why not? I'm like, I'm one of the chefs here. He goes, because you're a criminal. Excuse me? Yeah, because only men who have tattoos are criminals. Wow. So my HR lady is literally right behind her as they're saying this. I'm like, yeah, it was a whole hot mess after that. That's all I have to say.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to put I'm actually making a request, certainly to David in the back again, so that we couldn't do the show without him. So I'm going to ask and see if he can do a poll, raise a poll in the chat. How many people have tattoos, and do it by like number.
So there's a problem with that. I don't have access to make that poll on YouTube.
Okay.
That would be BMU. So if he can get up from the bear cave and shake up all the fur and pull his stomach up and come over here and pull up the pole, that would be nice.
Okay.
Then again, it makes an earthquake. Just make sure you don't feel no rumble while you're walking by.
Right. So I'm just curious in terms of just trying to poll the audience. So how many people have no tattoos at all? Then, you know, you got 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 20 to 30. I'm trying to think what the limit. How many do you have, Peter? If you count it up,
I lost count. I got a full sleeve. I got a couple.
So does a sleeve count as one, or is a sleeve count as many? Or I don't see. I don't know how would you count a full sleeve?
That really depends on the person, because this technically a half sleeve, but when you go into it, then I have all this. So if I had to count, like, is it 1, 2? This was 2 different tattoos. So the letters came first, then the dragon.
Right.
So would you consider that too?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know I guess how I would probably rank it is by the number of times you've been to the tattoo artist.
Okay, if you go do that, okay.
So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay, so anybody who has more than 11 tattoos, I'm curious, and they can be male or female. Certainly to drop that in the chat. So I'm just trying to poll my audience, because like I said, I might be in the minority tonight, quite frankly, because like I said, I don't have any tattoos.
You're a virgin.
No desire to get tattoos. So that's so I might be I'm almost like the cool one now, because one thing that's definitely happened in the last few years. Now, growing up, you were considered the bad boy or the bad girl or the rebel if you had tattoos. So you were definitely one who sort of stuck out from the crowd if you had them, especially if they were visible. Now, again, back growing up, if someone got a tattoo, especially if it was like a girl or something, she would get a tattoo. It would be like in an indiscriminate place. But now, like, tattoos are like outerwear today. And so it's almost like you're in a minority now if you don't have tattoos versus those who do. So especially if you're in that Xennial Gen Z and younger generation, it's almost becomes like so normalized that it's something that so it's surprising when you have a young person, or if that person is young, you think, okay, that person must have come from a very religious background or something like that, and it's just not something that is favorable in the household where that person comes from. But be that as it may, so me, as you guys, if you've been watching the show for a while, I'm kind of like the stat guy. And I like having numbers, and I like looking at researching things, and I like to have some perspective on some things to help frame a more informed conversation. So what I decided to do is just do some, put some things together that, and thank you, David, for sharing this on the screen. So again, just in terms of the areas of the world, again, this is a global thing. All right. So again, this is as, the base of the show, you see those UN flags in our title as we play the show opening or whatnot. So this is probably as global as it gets. All right, so again, the areas where tattoos are most popular. So Italy, apparently, according to this, and this comes from statista.com, that from a 2018 survey, that in Italy, tattoos are a very big deal. They're most popular, 48% in Italy. Sweden, 47%. United States is right there, and probably by now it might even exceed 50% at this point in terms of tattoos. So again, lots of places, certainly in Europe, in the United States, in Brazil, in Greece, obviously at 35%, and so again, a lot of places in the world where tattoos are becoming more and more accepted, certainly in the populace. Another stat that I found here, this comes from Wellington Maps, travel.com. So he has a blog, and this person, he actually took an interesting approach because he didn't necessarily see, from his perspective, he didn't see a lot of global data or, statistical data on it. So what he did was he actually used, and he described his process. So he wanted to know the percentage of people with tattoos by country. So he realized there was no data on this, and so he decided to use the hashtags. So he used Instagram just to kind of get a very crude measure of the people who have either Googled or searched on tattooing, and then he used I guess some sort of tool called Keyhole, so he can sort of put all those hashtags and put them in some sort of statistical map. He probably could have did it through Excel if he wanted to, but he used a tool, and he kind of came up with this global map. So you see the darker areas on the map are areas where, people are more likely to be tattooed. And in the gray areas where it's least likely for people to be tattooed. So he actually went in a little bit. So as you can see, Europe certainly has a deep concentration. We already mentioned that Italy has a very strong base of people who like to be tattooed. So again, he used, went in more, and you can see Italy is pretty much very dark in color. You have Belgium here, so you have a lot of countries where tattooing is accepted, again, certainly by young people. And it's certainly something that's not going anywhere soon. Another stats I have here is, again, just different regions of the world that have a long history with tattooing. So again, this comes from Murder LASIK Clinic. All right. So again, and the title of the article is Tattoo Culture Around the World. So we talk about Japan, whose tattoo history goes back for hundreds of years, but really where it began, really where a divide was, is where it says the Yakuza, which is essentially the Japanese mafia, where they started using tattooing as a way certainly to distinguish themselves from the broader culture. And therefore, there was always a negative association. So very similar to what you were saying earlier, Peter, to have how people get profiled. That if you see a person in Japan with a lot of tattoos, you're asking, look, are they part of some organized crime or some underworld sort of activity?
Back in the day, we have to clear that out too, because now it's so common even down there.
Right. But I'm just saying that the origin kind of where it really kind of, you had this sort of dividing line. I think certainly the Yakuza really started to come out because they actually started doing like full body tattooing. It wasn't just having like a symbol just to identify yourself. Really, using the entire body as a platform in order to do the tattooing. It really came into vogue. But again, tattooing goes back to the 1600s.
And it's kind of cool how they tattoo. They didn't do the whole hammer and chisel. They literally jabbed it in there, and it's actually a really cool technique. It sounds painful, but it's not actually. I know a few people got it the old Japanese style tattooing way,
Mhm.
and it's not as bad as you think it is, painful wise. It's like
Right.
scale from 1 to 10, like a 4.
Right.
It depends where you get it to, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. But even I've seen people get it on the face and whatnot. So I'm assuming that's going to be some of the most painful places to get them is on the face. And speaking of that, you also have the Maoris. So again, I think it's interesting. Mike Tyson might have made the Maori tattoo is probably more popular than anybody, because when he got that tattoo, people were like, oh my gosh, where'd he get it from? And that's the first time I heard of it. I knew Polynesians, I know about Samoans, like The Rock and all these folks.
Tribals.
Tried the tribal tattoos and whatnot,
like
but I
mummies.
never heard of the Maori, specifically the Maori from New Zealand. But again, that's part of their culture, and that goes back many centuries and whatnot as part of their religious
People don't
practice.
realize tattoos go more than you would think. People started with piracy and jail and sailors. That's not a fact. The fact is, it was actually a culture thing. Generations, millenniums. And now it's finally coming very acceptable. And I'll be honest with you, seeing Greece as low as it is, I'm actually very surprised, because it's very common now to have tattoos in Greece. I'm like, I know, like a famous chef, Psyche, he has his whole sleeve done, a one shot. Like, I know people, my godfather who lives in Greece, at 85, he got his first fucking tattoo.
Wow. Yeah, I remember. I think you mentioned that on a previous show.
Yeah.
Some interesting facts here from the Maori. So the fascinating fact here is that while tattoos are often seen as rebellious in Western culture, and again that's changing, in Maori culture they were expected. To refuse to be tattooed was actually a rebellious act. So that just goes to show just how different cultures view them in terms of their importance. It says the New Zealand government banned Maori tattoos in 1907 with the Tahunga Suppressant Act, intended to replace traditional Maori practice with modern medical practices. This act served to threaten the Maori culture as a whole. Fortunately, it was repealed in the 1960s, and Maori tattoos have since made a comeback. And says here, the last and interesting note, the word tattoo comes from the Tahitian word tatau, meaning to strike or tap. So you were just talking about with the Japanese tattoos, how they really strike with the so it seems like there's some relation just with the very word itself in terms of what it means. Other tattoo culture. So again, this I somewhat knew about. So I know in India, again, since I work in the IT field, I work with a lot of Asian Indians, and I know that henna in Mindi painting is very popular, especially for women who are getting married. They have the hands with the very intricate tattooing, but again, it's not permanent. Now, from what I also understand that and we're going to talk about this in another slide, that in terms of Hindu religion, it is not necessarily encouraged that you get those, but for a temporary purpose, it seems to be permissible. And there's a distinction that needs to be made between, again, a temporary application versus a permanent, a permanent one. But again, tattooing, again, certainly in East Asian cultures, seems to be, from what we saw from the Maoris, what we've seen from the Japanese, and even the Chinese culture has had tattooing as a part of its culture for many years. But where I think some of the divides start to come in really is certainly with the religious views that people may have on it. So again, tattoos in China, again, goes back, again, several millennia, known as Si Shin in Mandarin. Okay, so again, so you're going back to like the 12th century with it. It says the best known tattoo story involves the Yu Fei of the South Song dynasty. Okay, so I think what they were basically saying was certainly for says his resignation was met with an unexpected hostile response from his mother, who scorned him for abandoning his country. She kindly reminded him of his allegiance by tattooing. I'm not even going to pronounce that. Across his back means to serve his country with ultimate loyalty. So again, it was, like I said, and also criminals were oftentimes marked with tattoos. So those who had committed serious crime could be exiled and marked with tattoos, ensuring that they would never re-enter society without being noticed. And like Japan, there's also a stigma with tattooing being associated with organized crime. Again, we talked about the Yakuza earlier. However, in a country with over 1.3 billion people, tattoos are also part of the youth culture and fashion. So again, there's also a generational divide. What we're seeing, old attitudes and adages when it came to tattooing seems to be changing with the younger generations. Some additional perspectives on tattooing. Okay, so we know Buddhist culture, again, very linked to that culture as well. So certainly in Asia, there's certainly a long history with tattooing in that culture. So again, anybody who's just interested in this article, I could drop this article in the chat later in the show. You can certainly look this up, but I thought this was a handy resource to kind of give a global perspective on tattoos. Now, this last one here is a little bit of a, to me, stood out a little bit. The same article mentions it, but it doesn't seem to mention it in the same way. Because obviously Africa is a continent, and obviously you have different distinct peoples within Africa. So in the Egyptians, I mean, there was tattoos that a lot of the Egyptians that would have go back over 2,000 years ago. Northern Africa, it became a little bit of an issue because again the advent of Islam, and I'm going to talk about religion in the subsequent slides. But where I think where Africa really diverges is in sub-Saharan Africa when you talk about really the black people, because certainly it seems like there, as if I go back to that map that I was showing earlier, there wasn't a lot of areas on the map. Let me see if I can just kind of go back if I can. On that map that I was showing, there doesn't seem to be a lot of areas within Africa where there's tattooing. However, there's other acts, other markings that are done in Africa that are very different, but I guess in a lot of ways have the same effect. So it says sub-Saharan Africa, there's a tattooing practice known as, again, skin scarification. And I don't know if David is in the back, if you have any commentary certainly on this, you can certainly speak up to that. But I've seen it. I've known people who get the facial scarring on their faces and on their bodies and whatnot. Yeah. So you can take that one on.
We do have tattoo in Nigeria, but it's also not considered like tattoo. It's more like a tribal mark.
Mm-hmm.
Either you get it by ink or, I hate to say that, if you see the old school Nigerians, they have the mark on their face.
Yeah.
It's a tribal mark.
Yes.
Where I was supposed to have one, thank God it bypassed me. Now, it depends on what clan you're in. Someone have like three strike on their face like this, and another three coming down.
Right.
And what I was told, you're not gonna believe it. They use a very hot knife, meaning the knife would put in a fire. Let's say they started a fire with wood, everything. They put that knife until it's red hot.
Yeah.
So they're scalding you.
It's not. They're marking you to relate to the particular tribe you're a part of. Now, I've seen other women and men who got trouble. The men get mostly in the face a lot more than women. I've seen women who got the trouble mark on their face. Mostly, if you're part of a particular village or a particular lineage, you have to get it. Now, lucky for me, I find a way to dodge it, because some get it on their chest. And I saw one, but she showed me she had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 here, 5 here. I was like, wait a minute. I tell you, hold on. I was trying to get understanding about why all these trouble marking, like why they still practice it. As of lately, I don't see nobody practicing no more. Thank God for it. Because back then, it was almost mandatory.
Yeah.
And me being a kid, I was scared as hell, because the idea of you taking a hot knife, where it's red hot, and they scar your face to show that you're part of a particular tribe, I found out it was a little barbaric. But when I look into the history, that was made for multiple different tribes. Nigeria was known to have that because of the different clans that were a part of that particular region. Talk about the Yoruba have that, the Hausa have that too, as well the Igbo, but there's other sublet of the tribe as well. So if you remember before we talk about the kingdom of Benin was one of the biggest kingdom in Africa that lasted for almost 100 to 1,000 years at one
Right.
point. They have certain marking to discriminate their own people.
Mhm.
That was the thing. The fact that that map is not so up to date based on what was before the creation or the country. Look at the kingdom part. People need to mark them to think with a particular tattoo as well, but the tattoo is also nothing but black ink. But it's also set at the marking. Like I'm not sure. Sometimes the royal family have a particular
David, you
their
there? You
arm
said
or
you broke up a little bit. Can you
yeah,
repeat what you were saying?
yeah. I say sometimes the royal family depend on the culture. They either have it on their hand
Hmm.
or they have it on their arm. If it's the tribal marker, it's mostly on the face or on their chest, so to speak.
Hmm.
Other than that, I don't know other country that does it, but I believe some go to the south do it well because, like I said, it's a tribal thing,
Hmm.
and I'm glad it faded away. Because back
Hmm.
then, a lot of kids of my generation and the generation before me were getting it.
Hmm. Well,
Some
I
were
think,
too
yeah,
big, some were too
yeah,
small.
right. Well, like I said, I've seen a variety of them. And now again, we're going to talk about this in some upcoming slides in terms of their application and their practicality, especially when we're in a world that is becoming more global. And
Hmm.
certain things that might have been localized, that might have been accepted in the local culture, as we become more global, these things are going to become more widely unaccepted. So again, I guess as people modernize, as people come into a broader society, but I would still think if I went to some more rural areas within some of these places in Africa, that it's still widely done. So so
You would
that's
still see
that's
it,
what
yeah.
that's
The
what a
thing
lot of
is,
things, but not
it's
in
not
the.
updated on a map because you were still seeing some of these non-modern area of Africa that's still more like behind the time.
Mhm.
They have that to distinguish their own folk, their own people, to separate them from the rest.
Right,
Some
right.
still do it, some trying to walk away. It just depends on the leadership of that particular
Exactly,
clan.
exactly. And again, we're making a distinction here also because again, we're not talking about traditional. Now, again, traditional tattooing, I never quite got for darker skinned people because again, I mean, I'm talking about traditional tattooing. If you're very dark, like I never quite got the meaning behind that. So again, but that's what made these other practices more
And I get
pronounced
your argument.
because
That's why I say
yeah,
there's a variation. If it's not the tattoo, it's a tribal mark.
that's what I'm saying. Because you see here the last one, there's another practice called the
Suit,
cicatrization, where they use they do the cuts, but then they rub soot or ash into the wound,
that's the
and it
thing. That's
causes the
tribal.
skin to color over. So basically, you have these giant colloids that happen over the wound. So it's not you don't just see the scar; it's like a bubble. The only thing
That's
I've seen
what I'm
that's
talking
close
about.
to that is I know that for a lot of Greeks, so again, a lot of African Americans who pledge Greeks fraternities, the alphas or the sorority, they used to get branded, but a lot of times those brands, if it wasn't done right, especially on the black skin, it would colloid like crazy. So you would have this sort of bubbled up Q symbol or alpha symbol or something like
I'll
that
be
because it.
very honest with both of you guys. If anybody try to brand me, I'm gonna brand their dick off. Seriously, I'm not even joking
So
with you.
I'm just
I'm
saying,
gonna
but
brand
that's
it.
that's
I
part
heard
of that
it
was
was a
part for a long
trend in the
time.
yeah, no, it was a huge trend in the early 2000s. People were just getting branded because
Oh
they
no,
brand me.
I go back to the 80s, man. Again, when I was in
Yeah,
college, Rutgers, class of started in 1987. It was more prevalent then. It was more prevalent probably in the 70s and the 80s until the university started cracking down. So one, they started cracking down on hazing, and the hazing back then was brutal. Like you would get beat up. I mean, they would paddle you. You would
to
come with
jump you in other
bruises.
words.
They would put you in the hospital. They would abuse you. So when universities started cracking down on a lot of hazing practices, they started cracking down on that also. But if you were to get branded, it was supposed to be done in the way where it left like the mark, but it wasn't supposed to bubble up. So when anytime someone would show there, and usually they get like on the shoulder. So anytime they had that bubbled up brand,
Brand,
I
yeah.
knew that it was underground because those guys, they use like some illegal stuff. They didn't use any disinfectant. They didn't use any anything to treat the wounds. It was uncovered. I mean, it basically, it's a bad job. So again, so why would you want that on your arm? But again, for a lot of guys, it was considered, look, I've come this far, and I want to complete the process. So yeah, so the tradition with the Greek, now I never saw Greek women doing it. So I never saw the AKAs or the Deltas or whatever getting that. But for a lot of the Greek, the Black Greek fraternities, this was a thing. I haven't seen it as of late, but again, a lot of the practices, the hazing practices, they had to go 2 and 3 levels deep because people were getting expelled for that stuff. So a lot of those things, have gone by the wayside. But this is, I think, unique to Africa, because I don't know of any other culture that does that kind of scarring like that leaves those kind of markings on.
If you guys remember, a year ago, I was working at a university, Lehigh University, and I didn't see nobody getting branded or anything like that during the university.
Yeah,
and I used to park right behind the fraternities.
Yeah, like I said, this was now again, I didn't see this with the white fraternities, quite frankly. I never saw white fraternity members getting branded, but some for some reason and I never understood that for a lot of reasons. One, the fact that our history in this country being that of slaves, where you considered property, and you would be branded. Why would you brand yourself like a cattle? So I never got the reason why. It was just something that was passed down, but I never saw that practice. Now Anton's talking to the practice again. I'm not sure if you're referring to the tattooing, or are you talking about to some sort of brand. Your tattooing, absolutely. Yeah, but we're talking about this sort of branding, the scarring that's done, that seems to be limited to as far as I've been able to ascertain by my limited research, to Black African people. This seems to be a more thing, and even like I said, with the Black fraternities, this is something that's been somehow picked up, at least marginally. At least I don't see other people getting intentionally burned for the purpose of having some sort of mark on themselves.
I know for a while. Again, excuse my ignorance here.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of African that used to get tattooed inside the lip. Was that a common practice over there?
There's a certain tribe that does. I forgot what tribe that does it.
Mm-hmm.
Because even I told you, living in Nigeria for 7 years, when I heard of all type of tattooing among tribes, it's either the face, mostly common, or the hand on the arm. In the lip, that's more distinguished to a particular tribe that want to make sure their people are distinguished from everybody else. Remember, if you look at Africa as a whole, if it's not the tattooing or the scarring on the face, it's the ring on the neck that stretches, or what to put in their lip or in their ear. They're a way of symbolizing their people different from everyone else. Because if you want to go in depth, looking at how can you distinguish certain tribe in Africa back in their olden days, you'd be surprised what they actually practice. And it's not as similar as the Samoan that Anton was talking about, because you can't call it Hawaiian. It's more of a Samoan thing because it's a Samoan tribe. Samoan tribe tattoos. You look at the one of the biggest Samoan family, the Rock family. The Rock
Yeah,
family,
the Anoi family. Yeah, the
the
Anois.
Rock family. They
Mhm.
take that is something of a manhood kind of thing. Young boys at a certain age start to get their own, and
Mhm.
it grow over time.
Mhm.
The former tribal chief had one whereby it's all over his
Yeah,
body.
High Chief Peter Maivia. Yeah.
Bingo. That is traditional. That go way back more than 100+ years. The Rock have his own. The Uso have his own. Many other will follow on to have it. And there's one in particular was put to be exiled. That's Samoa Joe. I don't know why they say he was exiled. Maybe there's something more related on the family side.
Hmm.
I don't know.
He's
But I know that
related to The Rock on his own.
in some kind of way, because remember the Samoan family, they know that tree. They know who they're related to.
Yeah, it's pretty
But
wide. Yeah, I don't know if Samoa Joe is part of that, but I know that Hanoi tree is pretty
it's
is
wide.
pretty
But
extensive.
Humongous.
Yeah.
I know that part. No, but I do know with the Samoan tattoos, at least with the Rock's tribe, if you screw up the line by an hair inch and you say you're supposed to go left or right, it fucks up the whole thing.
Mhm.
And that's why when they pick up a tattoo artist, you need to get somebody who knows. So
it's
the
not like
tattoo artist who tattooed, excuse me, I'm sorry,
it,
who tattooed them, he was familiar with their tribe and their cultures and their
bingo.
rules and regulations.
Not anyone can do some more small tattoo. It had to be not only be for me, you got to be taught the
Exactly.
tradition and the history behind it, because not just any tattoo can do. It's not the same just like the Japanese. I was trying to put in the back chat. The Yakuza have their own specific
Yeah,
tattoo.
it's pretty.
I did a lot of research on it, and I realized they make sure they let everybody have tattoo, but you cannot have the specific tattoo that relates to the Yakuza
Right.
clan.
Use
Right.
my tribal, for example, here. This is not a traditional Samoan tribal. It just is a regular tribal. That's all it is.
And
Yes, Dave, I know you got
fine.
excited there. Calm down for a minute there. You know.
So, I get it, but what I was trying to point out, I had to research about it because me being a Mi'kmaq tribe, I researched about that thing a lot, and I realized, yes, they are distinguished tattoo that only belong to Yakuza. Period. Anyone who is not part of Yakuza get the blunt or the consequences, because you're not supposed to make a mockery of what they consider their own, which is being passed down for multiple generations.
Yeah.
Same thing like Samoa. Samoa is no different. Not anybody can get a Samoan tattoo, and yet there's more. It's in all over the place. Either they're in, like Anton said, they're in Australia, they're in Hawaii, they're in New Zealand. They are different tribe or
Yeah, those
clan.
Melanesian tribes and peoples certainly throughout that throughout the region. You know, it's definitely a major part of their practice. Which again certainly goes to if I just move the conversation just to kind of give some contrast here. So again, Korea, for the most part, it seems to be not as accepted. So and again, I'm sure there's some generational things here. So again, in Korea, 63% of people have no tattoos. 25 have a
Hold on, let me ask you a
cosmetic.
question. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I didn't
Is
get-
it
I-
South
I
Korea or
think-
North Korea that's specified? Because I know that's
South Korea, it says here. South Korea.
Okay.
Responded back in 2019. And again, as far as, just negative impressions overall, it's not, it's not widely accepted. But again, I would have to think also with younger people there, because a lot of those people adopt hip hop culture. K-pop is popular over there. So I would think that some of this attitude may be changing with younger generations, but just to kind of show some perspective from another culture. And then I want to kind of get, this got blown up for some reason. I don't know if I can zoom this down, but basically, yeah, not sure why it blew up like
I want to point out something, because I'm glad
Yeah.
Anton put that out there, because I didn't know that it's specific based on their culture. Today, Dwayne Johnson and Joe, I know that with Roman Reigns, had a prominent tattoo on one side of the body because they have Samoan.
Right.
That means
Okay.
only full Samoan can have it full blown,
Right.
and I noticed that. So it makes sense, because I was thinking the same thing. Why only Rock and him only got on one side only, but Jimmy and Fatu and Jimmy and Jay had a full blown, not with based on the culture. If you have Samoan, you can have the full set. You can only have on one side.
Right. Makes sense.
Look at the culture dynamic behind that. So when he put that one out there, I'm glad he put that. That's a tradition that govern their people. If you're not full Samoan, then you're gonna have the full tattoo. You can have it one half, but only full blooded Samoan get the full blown setup.
Right. Right.
But I don't think the Rock. I know for a fact Rock is not full Samoan.
No, he half.
Yeah.
His father's black. I know that his father's black. I remember. I didn't know about,
Rocky Johnson. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know about Joe. I didn't know Joe was half either. I did not know that either.
Right.
Yeah, I know most of them are half actually. Now that I think about it, and nobody's full blood anymore.
No,
But you just said only full blood can get full tattoos.
Jimmy and Jay Fatu are full blooded. Yeah, people who are full blooded and the people who are half blooded.
Okay, you're talking about those guys. I thought you were talking about the twins for a minute. I'm sorry.
Because the thing about Samoa, they don't like to branch out too much, but you have to be accepted by the family. Remember that I said Samoa Joe was exiled? I need to look into deeper why he was exiled. What the issue? I remember when he came to WWE, it's almost like they used their family issue for a storyline.
Mm-hmm. But it's not like it's necessarily because I know like Rikishi, for example, I don't recall him having a lot of tattoos at all.
He had no tattoos.
Yeah. So he's the father of Jay and Jimmy. So yeah.
I think he got a one on his stomach at some point. I'm not mistaken.
Maybe, but it's not like he has like a full body, sort of. And even the Wild Samoans, going back to because I remember the Wild Samoans, Alpha and Seeker from the late '70s. So I go back that far with those guys, and I didn't see those guys with a lot of it as well. So I think some of that stuff might be a personal choice. To an extent, even though it's within the culture, if you choose to do it, I don't know how you looked at if you are somewhat ostracized from that. But I know even with that annoyed tree, not everybody necessarily went to the extreme. Certainly not how Chief Peter Maivia did. He did his whole lower body and stomach was covered with them. So it goes back a while. But again, I'm not sure if this can be modified because I put the slide up, but somehow it kind of warped my stuff. So I'm going to read some of this. So basically, just some of the religious views on tattoos. And again, it's complicated. It's varied. All right. So again, I know there's been some commentary early in chat. We're going to talk about that. But it's varied depending on the religion or depending on the interpretation. So you have in the monotheistic religions, okay, so Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Now in Judaism, there is something that is specific, and people go to it. It was actually cited earlier. So someone's been reading. Leviticus 19, verse 28. Do not make gashes in your skin for the dead, or incise any marks on yourself. I am the Lord. So again, that's is cited oftentimes as a prohibition against tattooing. However, in recent, obviously within Judaism, especially today, there's variation on that view. Now, I think overall it's still generally frowned upon. But again, there's three major camps of Judaism today. You have the Orthodox, you have the conservative, and you have the Reformed. And there was something cited here. The Reformed Jewish leadership generally oppose tattooing, but are more permissive in their stance. The Central Conference of American Rabbis issued a response on tattoos and describes it as an act of hubris and manipulation that most surely runs counter to the letter or the spirit of the tradition, which dishonors the body. The response, I just quoted this, so again, I didn't make these spelling errors. The response also states that the prohibition of tattoos is a general prohibition and not an act of absolute prohibition. So again, there's some leeway here, but generally it's not traditional for a Jewish person to wear tattoos. But again, especially when you talk about younger people, I think it's certainly going there. We're going to talk about Islam as well as far as their views on it. Going to Christianity. So again, a lot of people cite Leviticus, but here's the thing, at least the way I look at it. And again, that's why I don't like to talk about religion too much, because it gets complicated. But I am not an Old Testament Jew. I'm a child of the New Testament. So for me, those Jewish Levitical laws do not apply to me as a Christian. Paul talked about if you try to live by those Levitical laws, you got to live by all of them. So if I can't have a tattoo, I can't eat shrimp, and I can't eat bacon, and I can't do a whole lot of things that were forbidden in that culture at that time. So I don't necessarily look at something in Leviticus to say I can't do certain things. So that doesn't apply to me. The New Testament says nothing really about tattoos. So I can't make something if the New Testament doesn't say something explicit about it. I don't necessarily go around telling people that you shouldn't have a tattoo. That other people do, though. And we'll talk about that. But it's interesting, just some of the history of Catholicism. You have the Catholic Church in the early Middle Ages. It was ruled at the Council of Northumberland in AD 787 that religious tattoos were permissible or even praiseworthy. So the Catholic Church has sort of a mixed history when it comes to this sort of thing. And interesting, in more recent times, in 2018 meeting with young adults, Pope Francis was asked by a young seminarian whether or tattoos are a good or bad part of modern culture. The Pope responded that tattoos should be seen as an opportunity to begin a conversation about values and belonging. Don't be afraid of tattoos, Pope Francis said. So he's the head of the church. And so
I had the same conversation.
Let me point that topic out. When they were referring to the tattoo, what I do notice, people who are the Catholic religion were getting the tattoo of the prayer bead on their hand.
Correct.
that was something that brought up the discussion about that particular topic. So a
Right.
lot of people who want to be like, I can't say hardcore, but it look kind of hardcore if you go that far. That you
Hmm.
do the tattoo or the prayer be on your hand as if you're always constantly praying. So I think that I remember an article about that what brought up the argument of telling the Catholic mom
Hmm.
preach had an issue with it. Some think it was okay because they knew that it was a different generation and the
Hmm.
younger generation wasn't going to follow the old generation way of thinking.
Hmm.
That where the conflict came to be. So when you make about 2018 meeting, they go back early 2000 when people were talking about why did some of the Catholic people stop making the habit of doing such things, tattooing the prayer be on their hand. That caused the discussion for that happening in 2018.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I
So.
had the same conversation with Father Cosadino a while back, like 2 3 years
Hmm.
ago, and according to him, and obviously he's the priest. I listen to him. He goes, "Listen, we're not really supposed to scar our bodies, and trying to get any more." I looked at him like, "Not gonna happen." He goes, "Excuse me, I'm gonna get more probably." I'll be straight up with him. He goes, shaking his head like, "I can't ever win with you." Like, nope. Like some things I don't agree about. It was accurate because this is like how many years ago to now. They didn't do tattoos back then like we do now. So
Right.
how can we say justify that versus now?
Right. Right. And like I said, I mean, a lot of times when people cite prohibitions, they go to that Leviticus verse. But the question is, are we still under Levitical law? But that's a conversation, and that's a highly debated thing. Again, there's other. I talked about Pope Francis earlier. There's other ones here. So you have in the Eastern and Oriental Orthodoxy, it says Christians who live in Egypt commonly tattoos themselves with symbols of Coptic crosses on their right wrist, and some for historical reasons. From there, the tradition spread throughout Eastern Christian communities such as Ethiopia, Armenia, Syriac, and Maronite churches. Commemorative tattoos are also traditionally done on pilgrims who complete a visit to Jerusalem. So again, those are different bodies. Now, again, this is what I know of war in modern times. If you're in like a Pentecostal holiness church, that's a no-no. All right. So again, in those, it's now they won't count it as a barrier for entry. Meaning, if you join that church, they're saying, "Oh, well, if you have tattoos, you can't join the church." But you don't even think about getting any more. And if you do have them, they need to be covered. So I know a lot of guys who follow Geno Jennings. He's a popular preacher that a lot of people like to cite or whatnot. That church is very strict. And if you come to church, your tattoos can't be showing. So if you got some face ones or whatever, I don't know what they're going to do with that. They may make some exceptions there,
They call makeup.
something, but yeah, but they are so I know a lot of conservative Pentecostal churches are very strict on that sort of thing. And again, but everything still points back to that Levitical verse. But I ask again, are we under Levitical law? And that's certainly a conversation. Islam was looked at earlier. Now this is something now. Now I know that Braxton, that snake fiend, again, good to see you tonight. From what I understand, the Quran does not mention tattoos or tattooing. However, a lot of the interpretation comes from the scholars. From certain guys, this guy Sanat al Bukra narrated that declares that the prophet curse the one who does tattoos and the one who has done the tattoo. But however, according to the Islamic Medicine Academy, a natural, non-permanent, such as henna tattoos, are permitted in Islam, while permanent tattoos are seen as forbidden. And Muhammad encouraged females to use color on their hands. So again, even within Islam, there is discussion over whether or not they're either permanent or not, who's interpreting or not. And so, that's an open discussion. But if, from what I understand, and I looked at a couple sources for this, if you read the Quran, you'll never find anything in the Quran forbidden. But having said that, both Christianity and Islam and Islam derive from Judaism. Right. And Islam being the youngest. So is Judaism first, then Christianity, then Islam. So they all draw back to Abraham being their father. And so there's going to be a certain amount of reverence for those Levitical texts. or things that are somewhat tied around that. So again, it's an argument, but even religions don't necessarily agree, even within the monotheistic ones, on the practice of as to whether you're going to get tattoos or not. And certainly Grooming talked about his talk with his own pastor about it, and I think but what I'm seeing from most people is it's probably discouraged. Look, I don't like tattoos personally. When I want my daughters to get them, I'm like,
Do they have any right now? Do you know of?
Yeah, one has Philippians 4:13, a small one on her arm, and another one she put a little dog feet on her foot. When we got our dog, she got a little dog paw on her foot.
I actually have like Hercules. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. Hercules,
so nothing crazy, and I hope that they kind of keep it there, but who knows? And my youngest one doesn't have any at all. So I hope that they keep it that way personally. But
here's my thing. I'm not trying to sound too religious, right? But when you have Christians tattoo the scripture on their body, there's a sense of contradiction in doing that, because I get it. There's nothing in the New Testament that you cannot have tattoo. But when you do it in that type of fashion, it kind of like puts you on a spot whereby you need to start acting yourself, and this is the proper conduct as a Christian to conduct themselves. If you think about it, because there are too many people who does it, and yet you having that scripture in the past doesn't stop you from doing the shenanigans you've been doing.
Well, that's the thing with me, and in fact, I talked about that today. To me, it's less about. I just think just aesthetic. I don't have a religious objection to tattoos. I don't. But my thing is, especially if you're gonna put religious tattoos on yourself, if you're gonna put yourself out, then are you gonna live it though? You know what I mean?
I think the old school mentality, that's what it is. I think it's the old school, because you grew up in an old school country mentality, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I think that's where your process is versus my process. Like, listen, the first person who got tattooed in my whole family was my uncle Pete. He had two small a bird and an anchor on his arm. It was like small, like it was nothing. So, it was like, okay, he was a sailor, he was in the Navy, whatever, you know what I'm saying? It was always covered up. But when my cousin Nick got him, he went hardcore on his. He got like a whole sleeve with about Jason and Freddy Krueger. He was, a big horror freaking guy. Each their own, David, each their own. You can't argue that. So that's what his thing was. And I looked at him like, I always wanted a tattoo, and I was hustling. Anybody, I used to get those tattoos that you put on as a kid, you put water, I'm talking about
it's like you put it on in water and then you peel it off, but again, it's a non-permanent tattoo.
My point is trying to get with that. I always used to go crazy with those. Like I used to put as many as I could. I was a freak about tattoos. Like when I got my first one in 19. My parents weren't surprised. It was like, yeah, we were expecting this. They were happy what I got, my first tattoo, versus what my second one was. And I thought I was going to get it out of my system, but it wasn't that. And I was just
I was about to ask you. So when you got your first one and you showed it to your mom, like what was her reaction?
She watched me get it done.
She watched you get it done.
It was done in my house. Okay, so here's the backstory for first tattoo. The first tattoo was my Greek flag right here. All right. So my coworker, he was in the process of opening a tattoo shop. So he just needed some extra money. So he worked as a dishwasher at a diner I worked at. We started talking. He was covered from the neck, everywhere, full head, you name it. He told me even his little tutu was tattooed. That's how far he went. He goes, I can tattoo you, bro. It's not an issue. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm a licensed tattooer. I can show you my license and everything. He goes, he came over with his equipment, opened it up, plastic wrapped everything, and sterilized it. And he went to town. He goes, are you ready? He goes, yeah, I think so. And my mom goes to me, I hope this fucking hurt you, fucking little bastard. And I'm like,
your mom said that to you?
Yep. I go, actually, it doesn't hurt. So when he hit the back of my wings back here, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to warn you. The back of the arm does sting a little bit. I'm like, yeah, a little. So I didn't expect that. So it caught me off guard. The healing process was fine. He was walking me right through it. It wasn't hard. The second was my Japanese letter stands for love. I got that done from him too. Like, she thought I was gonna stop. Then I got my cross, and she goes, "Are you done yet?" Like, I'm just getting warmed up. I went to her.
Well, that's the thing, and I think the point was raised earlier.
They're addicted,
Again,
yes.
yeah, the addict is almost like you're breaking Pandora's box literally when you get your
Right
first one, and everyone's scared to death of it. But then people just don't like. When do you stop? I mean, now, like I said, I don't have.
Here's where I would stop. I have a vision in my head where I want to get done. All right. So from half the arm, I want to get biomechanical. It's called is mechanical with muscles, kind of like I like machining and stuff like that. David, I will slap you so fucking hard you back and get in a sperm town.
Oh gosh.
So I want to get a couple more in like finish of my memorial pieces up, and I want to finish my backup, and that's it. I'm done after that. The only place.
You say, but that's the thing. If it's addictive, you say you're done until
because I don't like because the chest I'm leaving it open for, like, I have kids put the dates there or something extreme happen. So that's
you're not going to put your wife there. You're not going to put your wife there.
That's a bad luck. No, that's bad luck. You don't know.
Oh man. Let me just finish up here. So again, there seems to be definitely a distinction between monotheistic religions, I guess, of the West versus those of the East. So if you look at, again, Hinduism, now, again, from what I understand, Hinduism, again, they're not allowed culturally and religiously. However, again, they do allow for the practice of, again, Mendi and henna. Again, I know for a lot of Indian women, when they get married, they get very ordained, with the ornaments and whatnot. So that's part of it. Again, Polynesian culture, we talked about the Samoans and the Maori and all those different people, again, hold deep spiritual significance and are considered a sacred practice. I think this is really where the distinction comes in, because, again, with those monotheistic religions, especially when they encountered these people, that was part of the angst, if you will. So you have these rituals that are associated with these monotheistic religions we call pagan culture, and part of the conversion, if you will, was to get them away from pagan practices. So that's always been a conflict anytime Christians or missionaries or whatever went into these areas and tried to bring Christianity to these regions. This is also something, because, again, in some instances, you're talking about thousands of years of culture and tradition that you're not necessarily going to take out just because, even if they become Christians, they're going to still keep a lot of those practices, because it's ordained in the culture. As it was said earlier, a lot of those tattoos tell the story of families and legacies and genealogies and whatnot. So those are things that they don't shy away from. But again, the issue is, even within Christendom or a lot of these monotheistic religions, it's going to vary based on the interpretation. So with the Islam, not in the Quran, but again, a certain cleric or a certain historian, he may have something to say on it that could be totally different from what someone else had said on it before. So that's what adds to the confusion of it all, is because of the variety of views that are on the subject. And so really, at the end of the day, it's ultimately, just practically, is going to come down to a personal choice and decision that you're going to have to live with, and you're going to have to live with the consequences of those actions. And some of those are going to be good, and some of those are going to be bad. But while I go to the next one here, again, in the U.S., 4 in 10 adults have tattoos. Here's the current breakdown. So 39% in this category, it's not an option. 25%, yes, they have several tattoos, as Peter gets into. 17% have one tattoo, and some people are still considering it. Now, David, are you part of the ink community? Are you thinking about it? What's your I know you didn't get the scarring, but what about the ink?
The ink, I was telling Peter before we started the show, I was about to have one in my 20, because me being a practitioner of Shitu karate, I wanted to honor my practice. So I wanted to get 2 different sleeve tattoo, but it was going to be huge. One would be the black dragon, the other would be the white tiger. That symbol that's relating to martial art. But well, as I was thinking about it, there's a conflict between that and my faith. I'm a Christian on top of that. So it kind of like it's a cross when you gotta ask yourself this question. You want to honor your practice, but at the same time, your faith do have a big place in your life. So I want to break that because I want to honor this. So it became an issue throughout my 20 and my 30, whereby I decided to walk away from it because I wasn't sure it was the right thing for me to do. I was doing it for the sake of honoring, not oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
Because the thing about me, I'm more about tradition and loyalty. I'm not all about trying to look cool and look flashy. But then again,
Right.
anyone who the huge mixed martial artists who have been a part of it in one way or another, either you grew up from childhood, whatever, somehow you can always find yourself having that thought in your head of you want to honor the practice you are a part of. Either you have a huge tattoo or you have a particular symbol
Mm.
that represent the art that you practice. That's what
Right.
it is. But when you're a
Right.
Christian, like you just said, yes, it's not in the New Testament. I understand both the New and the Old Testament thing, but not trying to sound religious. But when you are very aware of your faith and the foundation behind it, it will put you in a spot whereby you don't want to feel guilty of doing it.
Right. Well, again, but
So
that's to me, that's the internal. Um, to me, that's the internal conversation that I think a lot of Christians have. Again, how do you divide the Old from the New Testament? Like I said, for me, it's clear. Like if I wanted to get a tattoo, if that was just something I wanted, I would have no qualms about getting it. And
I
I,
had no problem getting it.
Jesus is my savior. So I that wouldn't be an issue for me because again, I'm not bound by that. But the discussion within Christendom itself is again how closely do we align Old Testament practice with New Testament practice? And this is something that Paul talked about, the Apostle Paul talked about. This is something that Jesus talked about. And to me, like I said, for me, it's clear, but I recognize that for others, it is not. So a lot of it, again, what your upbringing, like I said, if you've been brought up in a Pentecostal or holiness church or some one of those conservative bodies, if you grew up Mormon or something like that, it's going to be tough for you to make those breaks because it's part of your psyche. But me, I came to faith as an adult, so I didn't have all that baggage on me as some other people might when it comes
I'll be
to
honest with you. I grew up in the Orthodox Church, and I had no problem getting a tattoo. Didn't feel bad
right.
one bit.
Now, so at the end of the day, it may come down to again, I think personal choice, but again, you need
Yeah,
to
but
weigh your choices.
but there was
Yeah.
a difference because my upbringing, I was all being shoved whereby they want me to be a particular leader, which I did not. I was rejecting that because
Right.
when you're the first child and both your parents had position in the church and they try to shove it down your throat that you will be a minister one day, and I kind of like feeling like, nope, if it's not my calling, it's not my calling.
Correct.
So that was a conflict, and
Hmm.
plus I started at the age of 7. So reading the King James Version Bible is easy for me, but knowing what I know over a long period of time,
Hmm.
and when you go ask yourself that same question over, is it okay to do it? It's not okay to do it. To me, that time long past. Because if I wanted, I could have done it in my 20s.
Hmm.
I'm in my 40 right now. I am not trying to feel no ridiculous pain. I'm
Well,
sorry.
look, grooming's uncle, he got it. What you said, 80 years old, he got it. Grooming. Was it your uncle?
My godfather, yeah.
Okay,
Godfather. So
if I'm gonna have a tattoo, he didn't have to be nearby so I could squeeze the hell out of his hand. So every time I get a poke, he could put my pain.
So here's the one thing I want to talk about on the martial art tattoo. So it's not 100% have to. So when I got my first, I got the letters first, and it was the way of an empty hand, sensei for karate. I asked my sensei, like, "Yo, when Master Ray, can I, is it okay? Is it disrespectful?" Like, I don't give a shit. He goes, his letters. Like now, if you're talking about the school logo, we need to have a different conversation. So the school logo came out. I was like, I want to add a school logo. I go to him. Master, remember that conversation we had a few years ago? I'm like, we had a lot of conversation. What are you talking about? I'm like, I forgot you're old. And he gave me the look in the tap of the foot, like, I'm gonna kick your goddamn fucking ass. He hate me calling him old. So anyway, long story short, he looked at me, goes, "What do you want?" And goes, like, "I want to get the school logo tattooed." He goes, "Well, okay." I'm like, so you amp this up for no reason? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't fuck with you. He goes, like, I don't have a problem with you getting it, Peter. He goes, because you were one of my top students. And like, why would I say no to you? You all follow the rules. Your belt never touched the ground. You were always at class. You never threw a first punch. You always finished the fight. You never started a fight. He goes, you follow the code. So you getting a tattoo is honoring me end of the day. So yeah, go get it.
Right.
So he
Now
never had an issue
also,
with that.
yeah. Now also there's another segment of society that where certainly within American society where certainly tattooing is practiced, and we got to talk about the military, because obviously a lot of guys, if you're Navy SEAL or Delta Force or Army Ranger or something to that effect,
that's a little tricky here in a second, Paul, because the rules have changed recently. They just passed a new law against that. Now you can have a full beard and sleeve tattoos in the military. They just changed that.
Right, but I'm saying, but back in the day, like a lot of the guys back, like in the 40s and 50s and whatnot, a lot of those guys who had tattoos, these were like former military guys, former Navy, former Marines, or whatever.
Back then, because I obviously I have a lot of military friends.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So the rule was you had to be somewhere that you couldn't see it. So if you're wearing a short sleeve like this, it had to be somewhere like up higher up in the arm, or on your back, on your ass, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So yes, David, on your ass. So later on, it changed the rule. It goes, okay, like it depends which brand you're going into. Let's say Marines will not let you have anything below right here on your because it's a short sleeve. But if it was let's say up here from up and down, they didn't have a problem with that. It's just this part they cared about when you wear your dress uniform. Now, Army, Air Force, and Coast Guard didn't care. You can have them on your arms, it's fine. Now they changed the law back in 2018. I'm sorry, 2018. They didn't. They was talking about it. It got passed in 2020. So you're allowed to have a full sleeve tattoo. Doesn't matter. Only thing you're not allowed is anything from the neck down, because of the marks. So that changed, and some other things rules changed. And I even asked CQ. You said like, honestly, I'm not sure, but he looked into it. Or we know a corporal in the service. He goes, yeah, the rules changed, and he has a full sleeve, 2 full sleeve tattoos, and he walks in a short sleeve in his work every day, and he works for. I'm like,
thank you, Anton, for that information, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people in the military, both the Army and the Marine, it's more like the tattoo that some of their platoon they are part of.
Correct. Yeah. It's a brotherhood. It's a those guys you went through stuff with. So yeah. So again, and for a lot of people, I think a lot of people would understand that. But I'm just showing this last slide, and this will be the last slide. I showed it a lot tonight, and hopefully this was instructive or useful. But I just wanted to use these to sort of guide some of the conversation. So again, we've talked about what's that?
Guideline.
Yeah. But so we've seen tattoos from a cultural perspective, many countries of the world where tattoos are more favorable than others. We've seen religious perspectives, and again, even within the religions, there's dispute, there's debate, there's discussion on whether or not they're okay or not. And then we also have on the practical side. All right. So again, in terms of your career or practice. Now, in some areas, look, if you're a football player, if you're a biker, or if you're in the ink industry or whatever, I don't think most people are going to really care about, whether you have them or not. But in certain professions, in certain areas, your likelihood to get hired for certain tattoos, depending on where they are, may matter. So again, those who come in for face tattoos, again, work, depending on the type of job, let's just say if you're talking about working in a corporate setting, again, your chances of being hired if you have face tattoos is the lowest considering other ones. Again, the neck we talked about earlier, if it's visible to the neck, again, so there's a scale. So tattoos on the hand, followed by the full sleeve, tattoo on the arm, tattoo on the upper arm, again, lower back. So just like you were saying earlier, grooming, if it was, even in the military, if it was on your upper arm, as long as it wasn't visible, nobody mattered. And again, if it's on your back or whatever, no one's, what profession are you going to go into where your back is going to be visible with a tattoo? It's not that likely, but I'm showing this to talk about, again, whether you decide to get a tattoo or not. There's always consequences that may follow. Now, David, you talked earlier about the scarring, that a lot of the African tribes and people would have. Some of that I'm thinking today, you saw about it's not as prevalent as it was. I'm thinking today, as some of these people are going to school, want careers in mainstream, that kind of look maybe, and again, it could be totally discriminatory. I acknowledge that.
Correct.
It doesn't have anything to do with the qualifications of the person.
No, you're
But
correct. Because
yeah.
let me explain to you why. You're correct. The 80s, a lot of Nigerians who came to this country and who had those trouble marks could not get a job in the military. They mostly end up in New York City as cab drivers or working some regular job out here. Corporate sector, the moment they find out you're from Africa and they see that thing, it's like they wonder, are you a savage or something?
Mhm.
To have that type of thing. 'Cause I saw a lot of African men and women who had such thing in their faith. They were never able to get the type of corporate job that paid well. Either a cab driver or they had their own businesses.
Mhm.
Because those things, it's visual, mind you. Now, ask anybody who knows nothing about the African culture, see someone who has 3 lines here, 3 lines there, and it's huge.
Mhm.
You gonna be typical. Sometimes it's swollen, and the sun look like it look like real scars, like somebody cut the chunk of their skin out.
Mhm.
So when you see that, you're going to question it as a person who's not aware of the African culture. You're
Mhm.
not going to hire people like that during the 80s. That was the thing back in the 80s.
Mhm.
So it was prevalent. But some parents have to realize that they don't need to follow the culture, because the culture, I hate to say it, if you from a traditional family, that is passed down for multiple generations. Now, if you break that, there's a taboo, or they'll look at you like, what are you trying to say? You want to get too modernized? You too big for our culture, you too big for our tribe. That type of thinking. So it's not something like a lot of people can comprehend nor understand if you're not from a cultural background that go back more than 100 years. People take it down a big deal. It's a big deal. So
Yeah.
when you talk about the Samoan family, not everybody had a tattoo. Like I said, who went through the ritual? That tattoo similar you went to a particular ritual. Get what I'm saying? You don't just
Mhm.
get that from nowhere. You have to go through something like a path of right, a path of
Rites of
it's
passage.
something.
Yeah.
There you go, right of passage. It was something that signified that you went through something, that signified you're part of this,
Mhm.
that you're considered to be a part of the clan. They don't pass that title out to anybody in Des Moines. As for African, it's more considered as a identification that you're part of our tribe, you're part of our culture.
Mhm.
You get what I'm coming from? Every
Yeah.
culture is different about how they give their tattoo to their people. So
Right,
I'm
but I'm
glad.
saying, but as those people though move out from their traditional, if they go to other countries, they go to Europe, they go to America, they go to the Middle East, they go to.
Mhm.
So again, how they're going to have an issue off the rip just being accepted
And you,
in the new culture
you're
that they're going into.
totally correct. But what surprised me, the people who are not fazed by the, the change of the time right now and put the time are Samoan. Samoan could care less about, and they still do it anyway. That what make me more fascinated about their culture, because
Mhm.
that, even if you look at the tattoo, it's very detailed. It's telling us, so it's like you're carrying your tribal history on your body.
So let me cut you off here, David, for a second. So I know not only military people, and a judge, my cousin knew, he's literally covered from the neck down, full
Mm.
body.
Right.
Only thing he has in his hands and his neck. He goes, I'm like, not because I don't care if somebody's seen. He goes, I just don't want him there. I'm like, they're very common nowadays. Like, if you, I think it go, I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me to T. They did pass laws saying the job cannot criticize you for having any type of tattoos. If
I
you
would.
can prove that in court, you can sue the living fuck out of them.
Yeah,
And
I,
shut
I,
them down.
I, I, yeah, and I think
It's
you're right.
federal or state.
Just like with hairstyles. I mean, we have the Crown
They
Act
tried that with me once.
black women, beards. Like I said, there's a lot of, as the workplace is becoming more multicultural.
But my question is, that
Yeah.
law, it is federal or the state?
Federal.
Okay.
Because they
I'd
tried
have-
to do
yeah.
that to me back in what was it? 2015, I want to say, was it something like that? That my chef goes, "You got to cover your tattoos." You're like, "No, I'm not." He goes, "Excuse me, I'm not covering my fucking tattoos. You can fire me, then I'll sue the fuck out of you." He goes, "I know my fucking rights." I went to him.
The landscape is changing. No question about it. It's definitely yeah.
I'm glad you said it. When you talk about that lot, it's a lot that comes to my mind. Mostly military people they overlook who have tattoos.
Absolutely.
They tattoos signify the platoon they represent. So what is much of a big deal when it comes to military tattoo because they know that it had that been a ongoing culture in the military, either in the Marine, either in the Army. I'm not sure about the Navy, but mostly the Army and Marine that does that. Because they're the people who fight side by side in the battlefield. If you think I'm correct.
Yeah,
That was
like
more
I said to you
that
before.
was more acceptable. That was more acceptable. But I'm talking about tribal, like from not military. They talk about culture, like the Samoan African. Though
Mhm.
what are considered to be it's Samoan never care. But Africa is more visual on the face than that of Samoan that's on the body because you can wear clothes and
Time out
still
there,
cover it up.
David. Some Samoan tribes do get it. Ulumanga, if you remember him, was another cousin of Rock. He got his whole face done, both sides.
I remember.
So you can't say that it's a tribal thing as much. It's more
I
a
know, but that
personal
was wrestling.
preference.
But wrestling was never a big deal about tattoo. I'm talking about on a corporate sector. I'm referring that to on a corporate sector because sometimes in the corporate sector, they feel like they see that you have a tattoo and you follow the military. Normally, that's like a saying, okay, you would have part of something very serious. So they kind of like use it as a way of saying, you know what, this guy can get the job done. Get my point?
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna look at. I'm just dropping a link in the chat here. This is from a business law site. This is 2022. Now again, this may change in the future. All right, it may be even be in motion right now. But for what this article is saying, one, it's saying that tattoos are not a protected classification. So you having a lot of workplaces now, especially with the advent of DEI. They talk about protected classes. So women are a protected class, minorities are protected class, or whatnot. It's not a protected classification, and so because of that, workplaces generally have the right to impose restrictions on their employees' appearance and attire at work. The only exception would be, again, if it's religious, because again, religion is oftentimes a protected class. So sometimes you can get around that. So for example, beards. All right. If you're a Muslim, you have one of those large beards, that's protected because of your religion. Or if you dress in a certain way because of your faith, that could sort of fall under that. But just tattoos in and of themselves is not protected as of late. So again, it might be a state by state thing, but on a federal level,
Well, last time I checked was federal too. I did speak to somebody who was federal. It passed recently. It was federalized very recently.
Yeah, it would have to. Yeah, like I said, this I'm still going to research this a little bit, and we can maybe circle back on this guy. But I didn't.
It depends what kind of tattoo. The only thing that can tell you if it's a racist tattoo, like say you have cake across your arm, for example, or fuck somebody or hate this. If it's a hate tattoo or race tattoo, they have the right to refuse your employment and tell you to cover up. That's a whole different category at that point.
Now, thanks for Anton for the information. You said there are politician, news anchor, and police officer in New Zealand that had the traditional face tattoo called the Boka Kaui.
Again,
I'm not
that's
familiar with that.
But again, that's in New Zealand. I'm just right now. I'm dealing more local, because again, we're gonna see. Obviously, we're gonna see this change. Different cultures and whatnot. But United States, I don't think that they're, at least not yet. And I'm not saying. I'm looking at New York, which is obviously one of the more liberal states in the country. I don't think it's not. New York here. I'm looking at a law firm here. So tattoos are not protected by discrimination laws. So again, it could be something that may be coming. Again, if somebody in the chat, if you may have some more recent information on that, but those are things certainly to consider. Does an employer have the right to limit the exposure of tattoos? If you work in a bank, if you're a teller, if you're something like that, can you have tattoos visibly shown? That's certainly becoming more and more a gray area. Back in the day, it was like fatal. If you tried to you wouldn't even get through the door with that. That's obviously becoming more of a gray area.
This is how I see it, and I don't care if anybody says it. Like, if I have to deal with same-sex marriage, and you're gonna deal with my fucking tattoo, simple as that. Simple. Then you get rid of same-sex marriage. Fuck that shit.
See now, so well, this is
Hold on.
this is the dice, but that is a protected class. Your sexual orientation is protected class, but tattoos is not. I get your argument, and I'm sure people are working on it, but it's not there.
What
yet.
I was gonna say was, it's like me saying, freedom of speech. This is my version of freedom of speech. So, too bad you don't like it.
Like
suck my ass.
Look, people have been making the argument. I'm not saying if not in the works already, in the near future, this is going to come to a point where it's going to be fairly passed. That, again, to your point, employees cannot discriminate in hiring, in employment, and advancement based on tattoos. I have no doubt that in the near future this is going to become a raised issue. But I'm saying at present, I don't think it applies in all cases.
I'll give you a great example. I'll give you a great example. When I worked for St. Luke's up here in Pennsylvania area, they're more in Pennsylvania. They started coming toward New Jersey. They wanted me to sign a waiver saying I waive my rights and I have to cover my tattoo. Like, I'm not signing that. I'm like, I always have any paper I sign. I forward right to my lawyer, and he goes, "Do not sign that paper because you're going to resign your rights over." And I told him, "Why are you not signing it?" I'm not signing my rights over. Like, I don't have to cover my tattoo. I know my law. My lawyer called the HR just like, "You don't hire him, we will sue you." And I still got the job.
Well, but that doesn't necessarily mean they were wrong. I mean, in other words, what they're saying is they may not want the lawsuit. They might want it'd be easier for them simply to hire you, not to deal with it. But that doesn't mean that they would lose in court. Because, again, if it's not federally protected, if you don't,
they were asking me to sign my rights over, saying I have no right to refuse to wear a cover.
I agree with that. What I'm saying is, let's say if they went through and fired you and you guys went to court, that does not mean they will lose.
I disagree on that one.
But I think some people just don't want to deal. Just the threat of lawsuit or the attention that would bring is oftentimes enough. Saying, "Look, we're not gonna risk our business or the exposure due to one guy. So look, just hire him and just let's move on with it."
Is it possible we can get a partner to the show? We can have someone who works in HR. And
we need the lead attorney on this one. I think we need the lead attorney.
No, I'm being honest because as I'm hearing
we need the lead attorney. That we need somebody of that, because I don't know.
Yeah. Isn't Grace is in HR?
Grace?
Yeah, I think she mentioned something like that once before.
Because we need someone.
I'm not sure
HR because I know there's so many policies about the issue. Because NYPD, yes, I see a lot of police officers try to cover up their tattoo. Don't even wear the compression sleeve. In the case of covering up, because you represent the NYPD, you work the gang of blue, so you can't have your tattoo showing too much. I think that's a lot.
Yeah, and again, just in the last 20 plus years in places I've worked, they come out. You get every year you get handed a document on the dress code.
I was right,
and the covering of tattoos or visible tattoos is clearly stated in there. You can't put that in there. If that was something that was actually federally protected, you would not be able to put that language in there without someone pushing back on it. So they got legal too, and they'll tell them what you can and cannot put into the dress code. They'll say you can't wear sandals or flip flops. You can't wear certain articles. Men can't wear dresses and things of that nature. And they'll put in there. They say, look, no visible tattoos showing. That's been in recent documentation that I've gotten. So again, you got to be very careful if you're going to put, because now it's documented of your discrimination, which someone can easily take and sue on just based on the fact that they gave you something like that.
You're correct. Let me read what Anton says. He said, if they by occupation, some police department are okay with sleeve, but other want their officers to cover them up.
That is true, because I've seen it personally with some people. But one thing I do want to mention to that. Like, I know some the jail up here when I used to work at Monroe County, some of them had to cover because they had a lot of race tattoo. The head lieutenant, whatever his name was, rank, he had to cover his whole sleeve because he told me straight, I have a race tattoo. I am racist.
And I gotta go to that one. One police department that had their officer wearing long sleeve all year round is the New Jersey State Police. Mm-hmm. So you can see that they have all their police who have tattoo wear long sleeve to cover it up. And he said here the policy vary but municipality and county.
Okay,
Meaning,
which means it's not federal then. Because like I
bingo.
said, if it was because they couldn't get away with that if it was federalized. That means you can't discriminate in any. It overrides any municipality, county, or what have you. So again, it's still being fought out. It's still now again, if you get consensus and enough people who will be willing to vote on it and vote for it, you might be able to get by with that. But up
I
until
think
now,
if it's not a law now, like you said, you're accurate on that. Eventually, it's going to be a law about it.
and
It's
that
not if, it's
absolutely, it's going
coming.
to be fought over. Now the issue is going to be again, just based on this, because I want to close this out. How far you want to take it?
All the way,
The face,
motherfucker.
the face ones. I can't.
Face one, I'm going to back you up on that one. I would say that's going too far. Because
So-
you don't
so-
want to be some of the at the prison where I used to work at. Some of the tattoos they were very racist, gang related, even murder related. So, do you want somebody with teardrops knowing okay he killed somebody? They don't do it with teardrops, but I'm using
Yeah.
that as
So
an
yeah. So let's say put you in the hiring position, and in fact, and let's just go to limits now. So let's move this conversation to limits. Okay, personally and professionally. Let's deal with the professional. What are your limits? So grooming, you're working in a restaurant. You're looking, look. We need to hire some chefs or whatever. Person comes in. What are your limits, if any?
Honestly, like if you're back in the kitchen, I have no limits. I need to see how you cook. That's where
So
the limits
you could look like Umaga, and you're
Yes.
good with that.
yeah.
Okay.
I have worked.
Then I can't. I got nothing. I got nothing else to say then.
Yeah.
If you look like Umaga, then that's then I got.
I have literally interviewed people personally, and he came into me and he goes, "Chef, I really need a job." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. Oh, calm down." People don't want to hire me because of my tattoos, and he had a big one right across his face. I go, "You're going to test right now. What do you mean? Go home, change, come back. I want you to make three meals: a breakfast meal, a lunch meal, and a dinner meal. And you're going to have 1 hour to make everything." He goes, "Fine," and he passed. Fine, he know how to cook. That's all I care about.
Mm. All right, David. What about you? So you're working. You're in IT tech support. You're in the department. You need some guys coming in. Got all these candidates. Guys qualified. What is your limits on the tattoos? All right, knowing the law. So you're not going to run afoul of federal law if you say this is too much. What are you allowing? Face, neck, sleeve. What do you got on this?
I'm going to say this because you know that better than you know that as well as I do. It all boils down with the company policy. Some company policy may have a little leeway for it. Some policy does not. You talk about in the fashion industry, the answer will be more likely no. You have to cover it up. In the banking industry, it varies.
Yeah, I've
Depending on
seen
the
that. Yeah.
relationship. You're not
I
going to
never
put it
used to
there.
see tellers with tattoos until very recently,
Not
like in the
going
last 5 years or
You're
whatever.
not going to. Like I said, there's different policy for different reasons. So as an IT specialist, I've been in multiple arenas. Some allowed to a degree, some don't. So that's why I say when I do this, it's all fall down to the policy. It's someone who
So
works in
you're gonna
HR.
have a
No,
as you personally,
it,
you're
no.
gonna go
If
to
I
the
want to hire,
policy.
if I'm going to hire, my question is, are they going to make my better look? But if I'm running a IT company that's
Yeah.
servicing other companies as well, now we're the outside tech support, we're not inside, more on the outside. If we get
Mm,
the contract, my question is, if my team member will break their policy, you got to think about when you're an own company by yourself and you supplying service to multiple companies, your question
right.
you got to ask yourself, do they have a policy where people look a certain way? If you
Yeah.
go breach the contract, that's something people have to look at. That's why I say you need someone on the HR who understand these type of contract agreement because if I'm coming with my team, what weapon are we supposed to have? How are we supposed to look? Are we allowed to have certain things on our face, on our body that will throw the customers some kind of way? Because you get some customers they go use that as you to breach the contract. Say we don't want these people here. It could look kind of scary because they have X, Y, and Z. That's something you have to look at. I get where Grover is coming from, but you from the corporate realm. The corporate realm is not that simple.
And
Every
it
company
changed a
don't
lot
have.
too.
eh, You're right. Every company have their own policy. BMU, you know this very well. I would like your input on this one too. How do your job operate concerning that too? Because you may have been know very, very well. All companies are not the same. Some companies are okay with tattoos, some are not. How far they go with it, it depends on who write the policy for that company. Sometimes the policy may end up changing depending on the massive. So it's
And
not some.
it may depend on the position also, because like I said, if you're tech support, IT tech, you're in the back. You're not again. If you're talking about public face of the company, you're going to be going to corporate meetings, meeting with clients,
There you
and
go.
things of that nature. So
There you go.
again, the policy overall has to also be more broad. Because if it's not, then you could say, so someone could say, well, look, well, why can that person wear tattoos and why I can't? So for a lot of them, they set a
and that
very
I was
broad
pointing out.
threshold in terms of the policy so that no one feels discriminated against within the company.
But think about it. Your New Jersey State Police had to wear long sleeves all year round.
Right.
Who wrote that policy? Who enforcing that policy? You got to look at it in that kind of way too, because if the New Jersey State Police have to wear long sleeves to hide their tattoo, what do you think they're going to in corporate America does? And what about the hospital? What is their these are things I like to talk about because people think it's simple. No, it's not that simple.
Right. Right.
When I say look for someone who work in HR, ask them how the policy change and who is enforcing the policy and how they go about it.
Mhm.
Because this is one of the biggest gray areas that even I like to get an understanding because
Absolutely.
where they make these policies, sometimes I'm scared to have tattoo, period.
Yeah.
Because you may go to one hospital, it's okay in this hospital, but the next hospital say, hell no. But you say, why would you
Absolutely.
that
It's
hospital, not this hospital.
Which is why I think the issue is going to, at some point, is going to have to come to a head in terms of some federal or some legal arguments. It may start with the states, so either at the state level or at the federal level, this is gonna come to a head at some point. And again, they may rule say no. It may boil down to it might, because again, if depending on the industry of interest. Again, I have a corporate image. I have a professional image. I'm meeting with clients, not just in the States, in other countries. If I'm dealing with a country in the Middle East, how am I going to deal with a person who has tattoos, and how does that going to look in terms of the deal?
I didn't expect to hear the Middle East in this conversation.
I'm saying if you're dealing in a global corporate marketplace, right? You want to be able to you want to present the most professional look possible and have everything focused on the qualifications and on the financial reasons to do business. You don't want any kind of, that's the same with the dress code, suits. I know a lot of corporates, they've become more lax with suit policy. I remember like back in the day, you worked at IBM, you wore a navy suit, white shirt, red tie. That was the 60s and 70s. IBM was as tight-lipped as it was when it came to dress code. That was the uniform. Then they allowed pastels, and they allowed grays, and they allowed different things. Then they went to biz casual, and then they went to casual, and so
they went to the Geek Squad uniform. That's what they went to.
They copied
Best Buy uniform because they okay with the polos. Really, they went to the Geek Squad uniform because they're okay with the polo because they realized there's no point you wearing a full blazer and you're yanking out server and God forbid you rip your blazer or you get it stained. They were okay with that. They were okay with the khaki band. And that's one of the things that I looked at because you see, I gotta thank Anton and Catalina because they put information upon the information because when you work in the corporate sector, it's like walking on eggshell.
Yeah.
These folks. It's never
I personally don't have to worry about a uniform because I have to wear a uniform no matter what.
Yeah.
Like
I said, we're not saying that, but that's the point. We're not saying like depending on your industry, if you work in a small business, independent, self-employed or whatever, none of this applies to anybody. But again, if you're going to be working in a more standard, the school that you go to, you want to get into medical school, you want to go into law school, you have to interview. Yes, you put your application in, your LSATs can be perfect, you have a 4.0 GPA, all that stuff going in, but you're still going to have to sit with someone for an interview, and that person's going to say yay or nay. If the image that you present is something that is displeasing, or if I got a choice between two people, they got the similar qualifications, I may want to go with the more straight edge guy or girl than the person who's inked up. That human, unless there's something that's changed on that level, that it's going to be difficult. So again, for someone who's contemplating, okay, yes, you may have tattoos, but do you want but are you considering more? If you are going to get them, where you get them, you have to be mindful depending on where you want to go. Yeah, UPS employees are expected to ensure that any visible tattoos are appropriate and non-offensive, maintaining respect and professional environment for all. So they have a but they still have a standard though. So it's
I'm not saying it's not going to be a standard. There's going to be definitely a standard.
But then again, you're also talking what employee though? We're not talking about the guys on the trucks. UPS has a corporate branch also. Does that apply to the corporate office where deals are done, or you talk about the guys who are in the conveyor line packing trucks and stuff like that? I mean, those are two different guys.
If across the board, they don't really care about it. You're not going to see them in the public. They're in the conveyor line. They're in the factory, not factory. They're in the warehouse where either you're loading the truck or you're unloading.
Right, and then you got the drivers and the delivery people, but then you also have a corporate arm. And if you're going to sell me that the same standard is going to apply across all three of those divisions, I don't think so. So again, like I said, a lot of it is going to be same thing. All these you're not going to be a global billion-dollar company without certain arms that you need people who are going to properly represent your product in certain ways. That's not gonna happen. So again, what do you do in that regard? So again, that whole idea, again, at the end of the day, again, we talk about personal choice, whether or not you decide to get them or not, where you put them on your body, and what the implications are. Some people are going to be attracted to that. Some people are going to be repelled by that. It's a reality, but again,
what I advise anybody who's thinking about getting a first tattoo, even Paul, he's thinking about getting his first tattoo very soon.
Never. I'm not getting him. I'm just like I'm the radical one today, right? I'm the rebel. Or maybe David, you don't have any either, right? You said you don't have any tattoos?
He wants to get one. He said
we're the rebels. We're the bad boys. Because everybody and their mother has a tattoo now, and multiple ones. We're the unique ones. We're the ones who are sticking out.
Paul, we were lucky that we don't have tattoos. Here's the joke. I remember they on the show 227. The lady on stage, she had a cat when she was young. When she got older, it's no longer a cat. It's a full lion. If you get the joke about that.
Mm-hmm.
I know Peter squeezed it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
Peter, maybe I understand it. She was young when she had a small little kitty cat. But
that's why Kevin look at Kev. So, but what I was going to say was, I tell people always put a lot of thought behind it. Don't jump right into the first design and say, "Great." Give them a reference. Think about it, and think about where you're gonna place it, because you don't know what the future can hold for you. Right. So everything I have, I still can cover up if I have to.
Right.
I don't want to. I'm going to fight back on that, but if I have to, I will.
Right. But now, so again, for you, since you're the only one to have tattoos, so again, and I'm glad you made that point because again, I think that tattoos have significant meaning to people. I do. Again, people put their mom on, their grandmother, their children, a cross, a Bible verse. I'm not saying that tattoos are just, I mean, they can have, again, deep meaning for the person who's getting it. But there was a time, and I don't know if it still is or what, but there was a time where people were just getting tattoos just because it looked cool.
Yeah, no. And everyone I have has a meaning behind it.
Correct, but not everybody does that. And I'm just saying, just as a warning, as an old, I'm the old crusty guy on this panel. Right.
Well, so I'm not gonna argue there.
So I accept that. So I'm just saying, just some OG wisdom. Whatever you do, I think it needs to be well thought out. That's in every decision that you make. But if you just in a drunken binge, you're in Vegas or whatever. Say, oh yeah, there's a tattoo parlor. Yeah, let's get in, man. Let's just go. I don't think.
Push back on that. If a good tattooer with license, it should not be tattooing when you're drunk. He's illegal. Actually, he can lose his license.
But you don't know that. But I'm saying that doesn't mean it doesn't happen or it didn't happen. At
oh yeah,
time.
It happens all the time.
And remember, there was a time. Now, David, I think you remember this. There was a time when people thought those Japanese tattoo symbols, those hiragana characters were cool. And they were getting tattoos on themselves, and they were saying like the N word and all that kind of stuff. Remember that happened like, I don't know, it was like 20 years ago or something like that. Yeah. All these folks again, because this, the guy told them, oh, this means this in our culture or whatever. Yeah, get the cool characters, and they were getting like these slurs on their arm because nobody knew what the heck they were getting.
That would have been thick. They were making these people were not Japanese, nor were they Chinese. They were making things up along the way until they carried a tattoo out to Japan and they got confronted by that. Yeah. That's what I said.
They were like,
certain tattoo is meant for the Yakuza. Certain symbol have significant meaning. The problem is too many tattoo artists in the U.S. think they know these symbols actually mean, and they don't realize they're getting themselves in trouble for that.
Yeah. So again, if you're gonna get something on you, you better know what you're getting.
That's what I was going. When I got my Japanese symbol stands for love. Oh, I found out. I asked my instructor who speaks Japanese. I asked his father who speaks Japanese. I asked everybody who spoke Japanese. If everybody told me yes, this is what it means. I did my fucking homework. I didn't go, here, put this on me. It might say I am gay. Fuck me in the ass. No, I make sure I did my homework on it. I did my homework.
Again, that's wisdom.
If you get drunk, you do the same thing to him. We put a tattoo on his back.
That's what. Yeah, yes, definitely. Before like any decision that you make, know exactly what you're doing, and what you're putting on, and again, the ramifications. Again, you might put you might have put a ship on your arm. It might look cool when you're 25, 30 years old. By 75, that thing's going to sink. It's going to look like the Titanic because of the loose skin on your body or whatever. So again, you got to think about that. It look cool, and once you start getting that flappy heel or whatever, how's that tattoo going to look in the future? I mean, can you even make it out? The girl that you put on your arm. Remember that line from X-Men Origins when the Blob. He got the girl on his arm, right? Then he blew up, and the girl looked like she gained like 100 pounds or something because his skin fat up. So you bet. So again, these things, because again, what you do in your 20s, again, will it look good on you when you're 60, 70, 80 years old? These are things that you gotta consider. But yeah, maybe that's a good point. By 75, who's gonna care? You may have to look at it every day. You never know. But the final segment is we're kind of going to be good at the show, but I'm glad we have this discussion. So again, for the chat, for those who have been participating tonight, again, thank you for certainly joining us tonight. Thank you, Anton. Anton's always dropping facts in the chat. So certainly appreciate his perspective and the research. That my brother was approached by the police because of one of his tattoos. He has a tattoo of the Haitian crest on his arm. Unfortunately, he didn't know that it was a gang tag. Yeah, you got to be careful what you be putting on yourself and how you could be marking yourself and putting yourself in bad way with the wrong group of people, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You got to be careful with that. But appreciate
what I said about that before.
Yeah,
that just imagine that he put a Haitian crest, but not with a gang tag.
Exactly. You don't know.
You got to be very careful what you pick. That's why I'm saying that a minute ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, think about it. Have a meaning behind it. Don't just pick anything.
Right.
Like, you don't want to put I'll use David and Paul, and you don't want David to put Paul's face on his body and walk around that all day long, or vice versa. I'm like, what the hell?
Really?
Really?
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah. But one final thing I want to get into, guys. So yeah. So you guys are now again. I'm out the game. So again, my wife has no tattoos. So I'm happy about that.
Anybody in your family has tattoos except your two kids?
Honestly, my siblings, no. To my understanding, none of my siblings have tattoos. Now I know my nephew and his wife. I know they have tattoos. But I don't know that many people in my family that have them. Again, they might be old school from the South. Again, I'm the youngest. So I'm thinking with them being older, that might have been taught. And again, it could have come from their upbringing. The church that they grew up in was like, then, that was a no-no. And again, that just wasn't something that was back in the day in the 70s and 80s. If you had a tattoo, it was a small thing, like maybe no more than like 1 inch by 1 inch square. And there was an area of the body that you couldn't visibly see. It might have been below your bikini line or in the back, something that was very easily covered or something like that. It wasn't meant to be public unless it was something shared very intimately with somebody. So again, if they have them, again, I wouldn't certainly know them just by looking at them. I mean, but again, obviously things are different. But I wanted to ask you guys about, do you have limits on your woman as far as tattoos? Now, again, if my wife, if she had a tramp stamp on her back or sleeve or neck or chest or whatever, that's a deal breaker for me. I have 3 deal breakers for me. All right. Smoking, a foul mouth, and tattoos, excessive tattoos. Now, again, if you had that one little tattoo here or there, whatever, I'm like, okay, I can live with that as long as it's something that's just not going to be in my face every day. I can deal with that. But sleeves, tramp stamps, places that are easily visible, that's a deal breaker. I don't care how good you are, how pious you are, or whatnot. That's just as an aesthetic. That is an unattractive look on a woman. It's not feminine, and it's just not for me. So, but for you, grooming, since you obviously have a lot of them, do you have limits on the tattoos on your woman? And if so, what would those be? And David, you might be more closer to my camp than groomings, but would you have this? But I want to hear groomings in terms of and for those in the chat, if you what are your limits? If you have if you're not married, but I would ask you, I know you're inked, but would you have a standard? How much ink would you want on your woman? Full sleeve, full leg, tramp stamp, or whatever. What are there any deal breakers with that? And is there a difference between men and women? Again, that's a reality. We don't look at men and women the same. So again, a guy with a sleeve to me is different, just visually how I take it, than a woman with a sleeve. It just is. So again, for Anton or anyone else in the chat, if Catelia, I don't know if you're married or anything, but if you met a guy, is a tattoo a deal breaker or sleeve? What's the deal? I'm just curious. What is the deal breaker for people when it comes to like, you're doing too much? I'll agree that I'll take face tattoos off the table for now, but
there you go.
Where's your line? So grooming, you take that one. David, if you want to chime in, and we can close out the show on that. But I'd be also curious from folks in the chat. What do you? All right, so Catelia. So if your guy, he might have been former military or cop or whatever, he had a tat on his sleeve or whatever, that's a deal breaker for you. So okay, I can appreciate that. But grooming, go ahead and what's your view on the matter? What are your non-negotiables?
So no face tattoos, no hand tattoos. I just don't think it's right. And no
hand tattoos.
Yeah, people get their hands tattooed.
I know, but that would be
just something, a perk of mine. I don't know why. It looks after it heals, it never heals correctly. It looks like shit. That's the reason I don't like it.
Well, you did one more. Something else you said.
Oh yeah, ex-boyfriend or ex-husband name tattooed or anything like that. I don't want her like Ben, doggy style. When I see his name as I'm banging her, like Jeffrey. I'm like.
But now, what if one day I think BMU asked this question to RPN one time. So what?
Oh my God!
What if your wife decides to say on there, "Ghost of Sparta's Playhouse"?
No, that's not like. Listen, I am incredible in a lot of things in that department, but the voodoo will sneak up and bite me in the dick. So I prefer not to.
This is your wife. She's saying this is yours. If she put in that area down there,
I can pop my seed in her. That means that's fine.
But she just puts in there. She just puts this is grooming's house right here. Grooming's dungeon right here.
Bro, I had girls even want to put this, Peter's property on them. Yes.
That's the ultimate honor, isn't it? She's saying I'm yours for life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Peter got bragging rights.
I always have bragging rights.
His name. So anyone who can top that, I hope you can. BMU, you cannot top this. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, all right. Well, let me ask you this, because you talked about grooming. You said the hands, right? So now I know what is becoming popular now. What at least I've seen it. I don't know if it's still a trend, but people used to get like the wedding band, the wedding ring.
It was trend for a while, and
I've seen people start to get the ink on there. Would you accept that?
I don't like that personally, because again, it doesn't heal correctly ever. Any hand tattoo, I have never healed correctly.
Yeah, they're doing some crazy stuff right now. I mean, it's. I know didn't T.I.'s wife. I think she got her eyes dyed like blue or something like that, ice blue or something. She went somewhere and got that done. Yeah, crazy stuff they're doing right now with it. But okay, so all right, so no hand stuff. So what? So no hand stuff, no X's. Obviously, I think that's a fair. That's a fair Chris. So what if she has? All right, so you talk about hitting it from the back. What if she has like John 3:16 back there or something? Are you gonna be offended by that or whatever? What's?
No, I wouldn't be.
Okay.
If you want to tell the truth, I'll be honest. Like, hey, as long as it's not saying that man John, her husband, I'm like, okay, cool, or ex-husband, but not her current. No, I'm good.
All right, so you're gonna be Braxton the Snake Fiend, but that ain't nothing. Back in 2008, 2009, I looked to the book of tats, body modifications, etc. People get their flesh cut out in the shapes or branded by ice or heart. Yeah. I mean that's real. My Haitian friend got her eyebrows tatted so she wouldn't have to squeeze them. Now that's look. If you want to talk about. Now, look, I have no. This is a fair thing in my family. I don't have any. My eyebrows fell out like years ago, but that runs into my family. I don't know, for whatever reason we don't have. So I know some people who've gotten like the eyebrows tatted or whatnot. That's cosmetic. I'm not talking about cosmetic tattoos. If you've had breast surgery or something like that where you need something covered up, we're just talking about just the casual, again, sleeves and body art type of stuff or whatever. What are your guys' limits when it comes to that?
You and I might be related because I got a fairly light eyebrow. And I think you make fun of the I don't have no eyebrow.
Yeah, this fell out in my 20s. They just started, but all my sisters the same thing. They all fell out, and they got to use that eye makeup or whatever to put it on there. It just runs in my side of the family. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't put makeup on. No, I don't put anything on there now. I'm just saying that now my wife's side of the family, they're like Eddie Munster over there. They got them big, giant, huge. They got to get tweezed. My wife gets tweezed monthly and stuff like that. They just they're just a hairy bunch over there. But my side of the family, absolutely, keeping the eyebrows in. It just doesn't seem to be a thing. That's just in the fan. But David, go ahead. As far as what are your so you meet a woman. Just in imagine you meet a woman or whatever. She's great. She's beautiful. She's got quality. She's smart. She's into you and whatnot. But what would be your limit on a tattoo? She has a tattoo or a series of tattoos. What is your cutoff? No pun intended. What are your limits?
I've been fighting this for over 30 years about tattoo on a woman because, for one, I never see tattoo attractive on a woman. I never have because if one thing is have one tattoo in a place because it's something iconic to represent your family member who which is understandable. But when you have it all over, one tattoo. I have a one tattoo limit, to be honest. That's just me because I don't feel comfortable when a woman had a whole body being tattooed. It's it's a shrinkage to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not attractive. It's nothing beautiful. It's nothing artful about it. I know some people have a fetish about it, but for me, I like the natural body more than just using yourself tattooing because I don't see a reason behind it. And I get
Right.
it. I want to get tattooed for myself, but for a significant reason. What it wasn't trying to look cool. That's the thing. It's more of an honor thing. I was no different from Peter. That's my only reason why I wanted to get a tattoo, to honor my dojo, to
Right.
honor my sensei, to honor the art I was a part of. That was just it. But when I see a lot of women, especially in New York City, getting tattooed in all kind of places, it's kind of like, I hate to say this, but when too much of it, women go back to Africa and find me a natural woman without the tattoo, to be upfront with it, because there's nothing attractive about it, to be honest, though.
Yeah.
And I came from a culture background that they do have tribal mark and everything, and when I see that, it just let me feel the pain, like, and what your parents they have to force it on you.
Yeah.
But when I see people just, you are beautiful for the tattoo, with the tattoo that make you look kind of trollish. That's how I see it. When I see a woman from a tattoo, she look like a troll to me. She doesn't look like a human being to me. That's how my mind operates.
Yeah.
So one tattoo is enough. If you have a tattoo for certificate of a family, I get it, but don't let it be all over the place or you just can't help yourself.
Yeah.
If I'm not marking up my body, I don't want my woman to do the same thing. That's just me. If I was marking up my body, then just like Anton, he said his whole family had it. Which I was like,
Yeah.
my mom had a traditional tattoo. I saw it on him when I was a little kid,
Mhm.
and she showed me that, and she wanted me to get it, and I was scared because when I was over there, the idea of a hot iron, I was like, really? You want to mock me? No, you got to fire me first.
Mhm.
That's how I felt, but now I don't know. It's very conflicting for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Both personally, and again, you still wrestle with it even from your own faith tradition. It's still a question that you wrestle with. So
And the
obviously,
thing that
if
you took from me, you came from the outside as an adult. I grew up in the faith as a young kid.
right.
So it doesn't, it's more conflicting that I have a deeper understanding of it.
Hmm.
So when you talk about me getting a tattoo or my woman getting a tattoo, if you had it before I met you, that's understandable. But you're trying to get more after that, I'm like,
David, I'll be 100% honest with you. If you're struggling with the idea, if you want to get it or don't, you're going back and forth, even a light doubt about it. I mean, like a 1%. I say 90% you want to get it, 1% you don't want to get it. You're not right for it. If you're not 100%
I know,
committed, you're going to
and
regret it.
I
Right.
told you earlier in the show that if I wanted to get it, actually I got it in my 20s. I'm not trying to get it in my 40s.
When you were
That was
70s.
the right,
All right. So
you know,
so
Peter.
all right. So David, is that we're at
I
final
would say
thoughts. So is
I'm a
that your
one tattoo. I'm a one tattoo limit, but it cannot be all over the place. Now, like you were talking about the backside, that backside is a little kind of awkward. Let me tell you why I say it. You not understand this. As fathers, when your kid a little see that, they will question, Daddy, why do mommy have? How you would explain that to the kids? No,
They may expedite the birds and the bees conversation a little
no,
faster than you
no.
want to. So
Come on, Paul. Let's be real. Let's be real. You
I
know this
get, I
very
get,
well.
I get.
You don't want to be in an awkward moment. And Daddy, why did mommy have to like? Why would? And
All
no,
right now, but
she
now,
gonna look at you.
okay,
She gonna look at
if
you.
you were in the club, hang on, if you were in the club, you saw mommy before she was in the, so you in the club, they were playing back that you know what up, and she was doing that thing, and she was dropping it or whatnot. You attracted to it or whatever. Y'all hook up. The rest is history or whatever. So it's not necessarily that you would find that unattractive then in that case. You talk about the little one, but if she could make it look sexy in the club, then hey,
I got a better one for you. Imagine if you're like you hit it from the back
He
and you
asked me to
say,
put that.
hang on. And you see it, you look down and it says grooming and reviews 101 master. Or go to Sparta.
oh
You know,
jeez.
you know how awkward that is trying to tell the kids, and the kids will look at you. No, you don't know how awkward it is to tell the kid your story how how their mommy got a tattoo.
Hey, just
that
tell
area.
just tell them it's a tribal tattoo until they get to an age. You tell
Or
them
the
to shoot
fan
you.
tattoo for grooming
There you go.
reviews 101.
Just tell them it's tribal until
In
that
this
time.
modern age, it's not gonna work. Maybe back in '80, I
They'll
would have got
Google
away
it.
with that.
They're gonna Google it. Google, take the picture with Google. Google's gonna come up a whole bunch of tramp stamp from whatever.
then.
So,
In the
man,
'80s, you could have got away with it, but now,
now you're in trouble.
oh God, no.
Now you're in trouble,
Don't
man.
put me in the hot seat. There's, oh, daddy, yucky. Daddy speak like that.
Because I know he's in the chat right now. I think our parents thinking about getting one too.
Oh man. Well, again, BMU already broached that subject with our pain in terms of, so I don't know. He wouldn't even get one from his wife, I think, at that point. But in any event, well, again, we're near the end of the show. Grooming. Again, first of all, David, as always, again, thanks for your support in the back. Thank you for being a part of this discussion. And we need, you might as well be a permanent part of this conversation because you're bringing the whole you represent like the whole African continent in this discussion. So
When you spend 7 years and you got so much history and
you got some history. Yeah.
It's and the only thing I'm mad at, I don't have the chance to get actor of Ekene Brain because he's like a Liberian of that culture. And there's so much thing I'm looking for in my code. It's in his head. I wish I
So
could have
based on what you know about that, are they into the scarring and stuff? Are they into? Is that part?
Igbo the same way too.
Same thing. Yeah.
The Yoruba, the Igbo, and the House. Remember that I told you, Nigeria would consist of multiple clan force
Yes.
that region. And to differentiate who is who, they have certain tribal marking or tattoo. But it's not just Nigeria. There's other African tribe that did the same thing or similar to it. But the fact that it did not show up on the map, it shows that people don't really know the deep-rooted history behind it.
Hmm.
Because it's not all in one country, Nigeria. It's other countries, just that some are dropping much earlier, some are dropping much later,
I
depending
hear
on
you.
the evolution of things.
All right. Shout out to R Payne. R Payne says, I have a brand. So again, I know he's part of the D9. So my man's branded. So he's got that he's got that on his body as well. So yeah, man, he's part of that fraternity as well. So but grooming, we're at the end of the show. So if you want to give your final thoughts, and I'll give mine to close out. So what do you got on topic? For the good discussion tonight, as always, guys, and I think we covered a lot of ground here that I haven't heard talked about a whole lot in these spaces and whatnot. But hopefully, we gave some perspective for people to think about. So what do you got on it?
So I'm going to stick to my original statement when I said earlier is you need to think about it very carefully. I told David, if you're not 100%, get it. The only other advice I'm going to give you guys today, if it's from the neck up or hands, stay away from that because at least you can put long sleeves. You can put something tight to cover your neck up. You don't know what is going to happen in the future. You may get a job in a government building. You don't know what can happen. So keep that in mind. Like what I have, you can cover them up and they're not racist. They're not anything that's going to bother anybody. Maybe my cross, but that's a different story. But my point is trying to get to think about it. Bring references because your image and your artist need to be on the same page. Because I came close a couple times getting a tattoo I did not want because I was not on the same page and I backed off because I didn't have references. Always bring references. Not one, but not two, but like 10 different pictures. So you can take ideas from all 4 of them, all 5 of them. He can draw it up for you. Do your homework on the guy. Don't just jump in any tattoo. Oh, like $20. Oh, great. No. Cheaper it is, more shittier the artist is. More expensive tattoo, the better it is. Spend the extra money. Put it away.
How much money are you talking about?
Depends on the artist. So like this dragon is my best piece. I can compliment almost 10 years later how good it looks because he took his time.
I'm saying roughly how much, like something like that.
Like 2,500.
How much?
2,500. There was 2 cities.
2,500.
Yes.
Wow.
They're not
we didn't
cheap,
even talk
bro.
over that tonight.
They're not. All right, I did that for you. But they're not cheap. But again, bigger the artist, more experience he has, more he's going to charge. And that's nothing wrong with that. That's all.
Is that typically like do they base it on time? Is it like how long it takes them to do it or just a flat fee or what?
He's on a piece. And like he's going to say, this took a full day to do the one side of it. Then I came back 3 or 4 weeks later and he finished it. That was another day. I would sit there the whole day getting tattooed.
It depends on the piece and the design and the detail. Because the more detail that the tattoo is, the longer it takes.
Oh, of course. That's what I'm saying. Do they just charge you a flat fee to say, okay, to do this, or if it has to be over 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions, they're going to charge you a flat fee, or is it going to be based on an hourly charge? Or
yeah, it came out to be whatever, break 2,500 in half. No, it was like 1 session will be this, 1 session will be it. You know, you need to put 100 deposit for per session down, so 200 deposit. But we didn't do the first one right away. We just had to put it later on because we had to making sure it was healed correctly. So it depends on the piece, really. Like my Assassin's Creed, this one right here, he did this for $50. He goes, it's like something simple. He goes, I'm not gonna try. You know one of my best lines. He goes, $50 call a day, and I threw him like a $10 tip on top of that. I mean, you got to tip him too. You can't just leave him hanging like that either.
Right. Yeah, based on design, size, details, and number
That's
of
why
fittings.
I say it depends on the piece. I can't give you like it's not like going to a mechanic and he opens a book. He tells okay, the job might take this. He might take about half a day. It depends how fast he is. Some of them take their time.
But like I said, but it also is going to depend on the artist, right? Because again, similar artists at the time. If you're just breaking into it, you may charge a price. If you're experienced, if you got people on a wait list waiting for your services or whatnot, you can get into the. So again, it's like anything else. This is art. This isn't like going to a mechanic and getting your car fixed or whatever. This is artwork. What are you willing to pay for an artist? I guess is really there, and ultimately what your budget is. So so I'm sorry, grooming. Were you can? I didn't mean to.
I want to add a little bit. What you said, what your budget is. Whatever your budget is, you can't add more to it always. If you go to tattoo artist, just listen. I want another. He told me, say you only had 1,000 put away. He goes, I really need 1,200. Okay, you can come back in a couple weeks. He says, oh, can I schedule out for 3 weeks from now or 3 months from now? Put the schedule, put a deposit. Now at least okay, I'm good. I can get the 200 next 2 paychecks. Not a big deal. Whatever. But put the money down. You know what I'm saying? Save up correctly. Don't just jump to any guy. Simple as that. Like this one right here. Where is it? Alex Hercules, when he passed away, this meant a lot to me. I don't know if you guys see it. It's kind of hard. There you go. And I didn't care about price. Didn't give a shit. And who tattooed me was not the owner of the shop, but the owner's master, meaning his instructor who taught me how to tattoo. Because he retired, he just wanted to tattoo here and there. And he tattooed me. And he's charged me $75 for it because he had dogs. He felt for me. He goes, listen, I'll be honest with you. I usually charge more for this, but the story felt for me like a dog passed. And that was an emotional tattoo, to be honest with you. That was very emotional. It was only a few months after Hercules passed away. I was in tears when getting tattooed. That was emotional for me. So, again, I don't mind paying the extra. I didn't care if it was a 200. I don't care if it was 900. I still got it, no matter what.
Gotcha.
Now,
yeah. Well, like I was saying earlier, again, just to level set, my objection to tattoos are purely aesthetic. I don't have religious reasons for not having tattoos. Like I said earlier, I think tattoos have a lot of meaning to a lot of people, and I think that they are, it's ultimately it's going to be a personal decision. So everyone comes from a different cultural background. I know we didn't even talk about Latino culture. I know they're big on certainly tattoos. We talked about the Samoans and Polynesian peoples and whatnot. They're big. Asians are big on it, and it's becoming more and more a part of our culture. So I don't think tattoos are going anywhere anytime soon. But I think ultimately, if you decide to do one, definitely you're going to have to, it should be thoughtful. In some instances, if you're religious, it needs to be prayerful. If this is something that doesn't violate your conscience, and it's also something be ready to defend. So again, if you want to put religious art on your body, and you're acting in ways that are sort of contrary to what you're professing, that can be problematic. You can actually be hurting your witness when you act in ways that are not complementary to it. But if you use it as a way to relate to people, I mean, again, more people, especially young people, are getting inked. It's a conversation starter. It's something to break bread on, and so it can in many ways it can be a way of reaching and connecting. So there's a lot of complexities here. I'm not here to certainly say, and I don't think anyone's here saying yes, do it or not do it. But again, just count the cost of your decisions that you make, and the impact it has not only on you but the people who you represent. And if people can just operate in that vein, then I think we'd all be better off. But again, certain people, you have to live in certain communities, and you have to ask yourself, is this something that, again, is going to make your life more hectic or not? But look, if you have that conviction that this is something you just feel that you must do, then, you know, who am I to judge that? But hopefully, I hope you guys certainly enjoyed this conversation. 3 very different people, very different views on the subject, but hopefully this video will be such where, again, you can have this conversation with other people. If you've thought about trying to get a tattoo, maybe this will, you know, help you in your decision making process, that you can make a more informed decision, and again, be prepared to live with the consequences of that. And there's other things we didn't talk. Yeah.
Let me add one thing. If you're still on this side saying you need more advice on the side, be free to reach out to me. My stuff is on Grooming Reviews 101. That's my channel. I have my email there. Please contact me. I have a Facebook group and all that stuff. So please hit me up if you have more questions. I'll be happy to answer. My emails are in the descriptions on my side of the channel. Just, you know, we're co-streaming both channels. So if you type in Grooming Reviews, literally what you say here, 101, I will be happy to give you more advice if you need it on the side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that, again, thank you once again, everyone, for joining us. Enjoy your Labor Day. For some of you guys who have a holiday off, like I said, I got to do a little bit of work tomorrow, but I'm going to try to get off as soon as I can. But certainly enjoy your holiday, enjoy your week. Until we see you next time here on the Gray Area. Just give a program in there. What are we talking about next week, grooming? I think we're getting together.
Together, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, getting together. So again, we're going to go back to the relationship part of it. You know, so we're bringing that up as a subject, and maybe the week after that, maybe we may have a call-in show. But you know, me and Grooming will discuss that in terms of the content. But thank you, Catelli, for the comment. Thank you, Lady in the Void. Yes, you missed the convo, but you know, hopefully you'll go back and play the replay. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. For everyone else, thank you for joining us. I am Mr. Bennett. He is CBN TED Talks, aka Black David, CBN Black David. He is Grooming and Reviews 101, aka
Sparta!
aka the Ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Otis. This is the Gray Area, and this is probably one of the grayest shows we've ever done. So hopefully you enjoy it. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next time.